Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm looking at a product from Retro 51. Now Retro 51 is a brand that has been renowned the world over for making really awesome rollerball pens. They also make a range of fountain pens, but it's not one of those that I am looking at today. I've looked at a range of their fountain pens in the past, and today I'm looking at something that is associated with that, and it is this. This is ink by Retro 51, and this is blue black. As far as I'm aware, this was the first ink that they, have produced for fountain pens. It says, "Life is too short to carry an ugly pen." That's their sort of slogan. And it says here, 30 mils made in the UK. Now this bottle shape, we are all familiar with, and we can only assume that as it is made in the UK and in this bottle shape, that this ink is made by Diamine, and I am absolutely not upset about that. I love Diamine inks, and I really like what Retro 51 does, so I'm really glad and quite excited to be looking at this ink for you today. Now, I'm going to say at the outset, I bought this in Australia and it cost me so much per mil. This was like 35 Australian dollars for the 30 mil bottle. Now, to put that into context, a 30 mil bottle of Diamine will set me back less than 15 from any retailer anyway, like realistically under 10. So huge markup, has to be bought in from the US directly from Retro 51. So that is, it's a thing. Let's look at it on some paper now, starting with the coloring card. So you can see here, this ink is a phenomenal color. It's a really rich, dark navy blue, sort of blue-black leaning colored ink. It's not a traditional blue-black in any sense, like it's not iron gall. It doesn't have that light changing effect, when you, as it dries, turning black, things like that, or aging over time as it oxidizes. It's just a solid, really super dark blue that has, in the right pen, on the right paper, a very, very dark blue, almost blue-black sort of tone. But it looks great here, nice little bit of sheen. Let's look at it on some paper. So here it is on 52 GSM Tomo River paper. I had it in a Pilot E95S with a fine nib, and then also did some writing with a glass dip pen. Now, the Pilot's not the driest pen going around, but I wanted to put the glass dip pen just to get a bit more ink on the page so we can sort of show some of that sheen and that kind of stuff. As I said, it is about $8 US, 35 Australian. So not inexpensive in Australia per mil. So if you're in the US and this is an ink that appeals to you, or you have access to it at that lower price, it's a really fun ink. You can see in the water tolerance test here, it moves around a lot. It's very, very saturated. So while you do get a little bit of sort of color left behind to show the detail, it does really, really move around. I wouldn't call this ink sort of waterproof by any stretch, but you can make out a little bit of your writing. But generally speaking, it looks great here. Page contrast is fantastic. There's not a huge amount of shading. You can see a little bit, like if we look at the E of E95S, there is a little bit of sort of lighter shade just there, ever so slightly. But generally speaking, this is a nice, dark, rich, highly saturated ink. On the reverse of this page, what we see is a couple of spots where it has just managed to break through the Tomo River from the glass dip pen. But in the everyday writing and all that, it's performing perfectly fine as we would expect on this paper. Now we're going to look at it on some lower end paper, and I start with it here on the student notepad paper from Spyrex. Super rich dark blue. It looks more like a traditional blue black on this paper to my eye. But a little bit of bleed feathering there, and on the back a little bit of bleed, but I don't think this is as bad as some other inks. I've certainly seen a heck of a lot worse on this paper. Like Diamine make good quality inks that perform well. Now here it is on the office copy paper. Nice sort of a muted sort of darker blue, little bit more, I'm seeing a little bit more feathering here, and on the reverse, once again, relatively low bleed, like in comparison to some other inks on this page, relatively low bleed, but once again, not fountain pen friendly paper, and a highly saturated ink. I will say, when I cleaned this out of the pen, it did take a little bit to sort of move it through because it is so highly saturated. So even a small amount left in the pen will still color everything around it to a point. But it is a beautiful color. So, if you want to keep this in a pen and use it continuously, I think it's a good match. And here we have it on Rhodia 80 GSM paper. Once again, lovely sort of hits of sheen there on the swatch and some in the writing as well. But what we see is that it's quite a wet ink. As I said, it's highly saturated, but the lines all look good. It's clean, it's crisp. and there's definitely no feathering from these on this paper. And on the reverse, we only get a bit coming through in the swatch. So this is actually performing really, really well indeed. Very quick look here at the chromatography. Solid dark blue at the bottom, running through blue-grey to a lighter, more vibrant blue, which we see in some of like the shading just a little bit, and then a tiny little bit of pink just at the top, just enough to like color, you know, give that sort of reddy purple sort of undertone that a lot of beautiful blues have. Okay, let's do a color comparison now. I've got a few inks to show it alongside, not too many. Diamine Oxford Blue, so you can see it runs a little bit more on the grey muted blue side. Colorverse Office Blue Black is one of my favorite blue blacks, and you can see it's got a little bit more gray in the lighter toning. So this is a little bit more vibrant blue. Lamy Blue Black is definitely more on the gray side. Then we get Diamine 1864 Blue Black, which is probably my favorite blue black, which runs on that purple gray end of the blue line. And then we've got Van Diemen's Essential Blue Black, which is one of my recent favorite blue blacks. Once again, more gray. So this is quite a blue black. Probably runs closer to things like the Waterman or the Pilot Blue Black than it does some of these. So this Retro 51 Blue Black I think is a nice color. I think it was primarily designed and released to coincide with the release of the blue black colored fountain pen from Retro 51, which is a beautiful looking edition. I do like the Tornado fountain pen. I think it's a nice comfortable pen in the hand, and you know the nibs on them are always pretty reliable. And of course with Retro 51's, you know, cool packaging and styling, it's a really fun addition. So I think it's a lovely ink. It matches out well. If you can get it closer to the US price than the Australian price, I highly suggest it, seeing as though the conversion of US to Australian, like 8 US is kind of like maybe 15 Australian dollars versus 35, which it retails for in a retailer here in Australia where I purchased it. But this was Retro 51, or ink by Retro 51 Blue Black, made as I assume it's made by Diamine, but it's a really beautiful ink. So thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support the channel, I would really love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.